There are words that are not just heard, they are felt. And there are teachings that are not only understood by the mind, but awaken something much deeper, the truth of your being. This is not just any text. I Am in Action, How to Manifest from Unity does not speak of external formulas or fleeting desires. It speaks of the greatest power that has existed since the beginning of time, the awareness that you and the divine are not separate. Emmet Fox, mystic, metaphysician, visionary, did not come to give you answers. He came to remind you that I am is not just any affirmation. It is the key, the spark, the bridge between the visible world and the invisible. When you understand that manifestation is not about attracting from lack, but expressing from unity with all, everything changes. This message is not for those seeking quick fixes. It is for those ready to remember that divinity works through you when you awaken to your true identity. So get ready. You will not just hear words, you will reconnect with your power, with your purpose, with your origin, because the I Am is already in action. And now it's your turn to manifest from the only thing that is eternal, unity. There comes a point in spiritual life where the soul, already tired of repeating others' words, of walking in circles around the altar, of seeking God as one chases a shadow, stops. And in that stopping, in that deep silence, in that void which the world fears but the Spirit loves, something is revealed. God is not out there. God is not waiting for me. God does not examine me. God does not grant me rewards. God is in me, waiting for me to express Him. That is the turn that separates the believer from the manifester, the seeker from the finder, the spiritual beggar from the awakened son. For a long time, perhaps your whole life up to this point, you prayed for things. You asked for health, for provision, for companionship, for direction, for help. And though many times you were heard, many times it seemed God did not respond, not because He didn't want to, but because you were praying from the wrong consciousness. You believed God was separate from you, and therefore your prayer became a plea, a request, a fearful hope. And everything that is asked from separation knows lack, and everything that vibrates in lack cannot receive fullness. Here in these pages we will correct that root, not to deny yourself, but to remind you of what you already are. And in remembering, manifesting it because the time has come to move from supplication to expression, from seeking to certainty, from prayer as a plea to prayer as an affirmation of I am. This is the teaching that transforms not just the way of praying, but the way of existing. I've seen thousands of people ask God to intervene in their lives as if He were a king in the heavens with distant authority. But what they have not yet understood, and what you, if you're reading this, are ready to accept, is that God does not intervene from the outside. God expresses from within. The most common mistake of the good but asleep soul is to keep asking the Creator for what only it can allow. God cannot give you peace if you insist on holding on to conflict. He cannot give you abundance if your consciousness is soaked in fear. He cannot manifest as healing if you believe more in sickness than in life. Supplication comes from doubt, but the expression of I am comes from truth. And truth does not beg, it declares. Truth does not wait, it manifests. Truth does not offer itself, it reveals itself. You are not here to receive from God as one receives alms. You are here to be the living extension of the Creator in this plane, not as an exception, but as the norm. Jesus, our elder brother in the manifestation of Christ, never asked God for things as a beggar would. He spoke from unity, from identity, from I am. That's why He said, I and the Father are one. And that's why He could declare, Lazarus, rise. Thank you, Father, for you have already heard me. Do you see the difference? There is no trace of supplication, only expression. There is only absolute faith that the good has already been given, and the only thing required is for someone to recognize it, declare it, and allow it. And that someone is you. This work has not been written for those who still fear God. It has been written for those who have already remembered they are His expression. You are not a mistake that needs to be corrected. You are an idea that needs to manifest. This book is directed to the soul that no longer wants to be saved, because it has understood that it has already been redeemed, and now all it needs is to live from that redemption. You are not on this earth to achieve things. You are here to allow what has already been created in the Spirit to take form through you. You are not a mortal limited by occasional spiritual connection. You are an eternal spirit, having a visible experience that responds exactly to your level of consciousness. And if you change your level of consciousness, you change your world. not by effort but by emanation. This book is not written to give you a formula, nor for you to repeat decrees like a parrot without meaning. It is written for you to rest in the truth, and from that rest, act with power. I am in action, not force, not struggle, not begging, not controlling, only affirming, only creating, only allowing, only thanking. It does not say to God, give me peace, but rather thank you because I am peace. It does not say, please heal me, but rather, thank you because I am life itself and I lack nothing. It does not say, I need you to help me, but rather, you and I are one. And from that one, everything manifests in perfect order. Each chapter that follows is not teaching in the human sense, it is remembrance. You already know all of this. You had just forgotten. And now is the time to remember, to assume, to practice it, until your external world reflects your internal truth effortlessly. Grace is not begged for, it is recognized. Manifestation is not earned, it is allowed. This book will take you step by step, thought by thought, back to that consciousness where you no longer ask things from God, but rather you let God be everything. This is not presumption, it is true humility. The humility of saying, I will no longer live, but Christ will live in me. And from that affirmation, the new life begins, the life of expression, the life of truth, the life of I am in action. I am in action. How to manifest from unity, how to stop asking things from God and start expressing God. Are you ready to transform your life? This book is for those who are ready to leave behind the old way of seeking and move into a new phase where everything becomes an expression of who they truly are. This is your invitation to step into your divine truth and manifest the life you were always meant to live. No more begging, no more struggle. Just the quiet power of I am, allowing everything to unfold with grace and ease. The time is now. The shift has arrived. Chapter 1, There is only one power, God in you as you. Every true spiritual teaching begins with this supreme affirmation. There is only one power in the universe, and that power is God. Anything that contradicts this truth, whether theological, philosophical, or emotional, is, at its root, an error. Error, not as moral sin, but as spiritual ignorance, the forgetting of the principle. As long as you believe, even in the deepest recesses of your mind, that there are two opposing forces, one of good and one of evil, one of light and one of shadow, one that gives and one that takes, you will live in conflict. And living in conflict is living in illusion. Life ceases to be a burden the moment you recognize, not as theory but as certainty, that there is no real opposition to good, that there is no will other than divine will, that there is no other power acting upon your destiny. True peace is not born when things go the way you want. True peace is born when you understand that everything that happens, when filtered through an aligned consciousness, becomes good. Not because everything is good in itself, but because there is no longer anyone in you who can oppose God. This affirmation, there is only one power, is the cornerstone of metaphysical life. Without it, everything you build in your spiritual practice will be based on sand. You may decree, pray, visualize, repeat, but if the idea persists in your mind that external forces must be overcome, hostile circumstances must be tamed, or invisible enemies must be faced, you will continue to manifest struggle. Not because of bad luck, but because your consciousness is still worshipping a false god, the god of the other power. Now, what does it mean that there is only one power? It means that everything that exists emanates from one source, responds to one mind, and lives by one law. And if you are made in the image and likeness of that source, then you cannot be subject to anything that does not come from it. Disease, lack, conflict, abandonment, error, they do not come from God. And if they do not come from God, they have no substance. They have no root, they have no true power, they may have form, yes, they may present themselves. They may hurt, but they have no spiritual reality, and therefore they can be dissolved from the truth. This is the step the mature soul must take, to stop believing in error as power. It's not enough to say it with your lips. You must live it in every thought, every reaction, every decision. When something disturbs you, whether it's news, a personal situation, or an unexpected emotion, ask yourself, without fear, does this have its own power? Was this created by God? Does this form part of the one good that governs the universe? If the answer is no, then do not identify with it. Do not feed it. Do not let it grow. Do not call it my problem. Call it what it is, an illusion sustained by the mind that has forgotten the principle. And you are remembering. I have said many times, and I will always repeat, there is no power in disease except the power you give it. There is no power in poverty except the power you sustain. There is no power in fear except the power you choose to keep believing in. And if that is true, then your freedom is just a thought away. One single thought of truth can overthrow years of programming. It's rare, but you must affirm it with certainty, with intention, with unshakable faith, God in you as you. That is the key. God is not apart looking from afar. God is in you as you, expressing himself through you. When you say, I am peace, I am light, I am provision, I am health, you are not declaring something external. You are allowing the one power to express itself without resistance. That is true prayer, not the kind that asks, but the kind that affirms what already is. And what already is good. It is God, and outside of God, there is nothing. Your trained mind, accustomed to years of struggle, may want to protest, but what about the bad I see? What about the conflicts? What about the injustice and the real pain? The answer is this: what you see is an image. What you experience is a reflection. And what holds that image is your consciousness. Change your consciousness, and the image transforms, not by magic, but by law, the law of the one, the law of the only power. Daily exercise. When you wake up, before looking at the world, close your eyes and say aloud with your soul present, there is only one power, and it is good, and that good lives in me. Nothing threatens me, nothing opposes me. Everything cooperates with the divine plan because I no longer believe in two. I only recognize the one. Repeat it, live it. Make it your atmosphere, and you will see how your world falls into order, not because you changed the outside, but because you remembered the inside. This is the first step to manifesting from unity, leaving behind internal conflict that arises from believing in divided forces and entering into peace that comes from knowing there is only one power, and that power includes you. Chapter 2. I am the word that creates reality. Everything that exists was called into existence by the word. Nothing has been made outside of it from the beginning of time. Before any language existed, before man wrote on papyrus, marble, or parchment, the word vibrated in the substance of the universe. And that word was God, and that word is still God, the cause of everything that manifests. The word is not just a sound, the word is an original vibration, an immutable, silent decree that acts from supreme consciousness and is incarnated every time someone says, I am. I am is not a common affirmation. It is not a formula, nor just another tool. It is the name of God, the name of being, the eternal name of the one who has no beginning or end. And when you speak it, you are aligning yourself with the source of all power. Every time you say, I am, you are invoking the very center of being, and whatever you add after that sacred name becomes law for your life. That's why it's so urgent, so vital, that you understand what you are saying. Because if you say, I am weak, I am sick, I am poor, I am guilty, you are sealing your world with decrees of error. You are using the closed word to condemn yourself, to move away from your true nature, and what you decree will manifest not as punishment, but by law. Life does not respond to your sporadic desires. It responds to what you sustain with consciousness, declare with faith, and repeat with conviction. Every manifestation, every result, every destiny begins with an invisible root, the use you make of the name. When Moses asked God, who are you that I should speak in your name? The answer was as simple as it was definitive. I am that I am. Not I was, not I will be, but I am. The eternal present, pure existence, consciousness without history, and you, created in the image and likeness of that presence, have been given the power to name yourself, to say, I am, and with it, give form to your world. But here lies the great revelation. It's not about using I am to get things. It's about remembering what you already are. When you say I am abundant, you are not trying to create wealth. You are remembering that your true nature is fullness. When you say I am peace, you are not trying to calm your mind. You are remembering that your center is already at rest because it was created by love. When you say I am health, you are not trying to heal yourself. You are allowing eternal life to flow unobstructed through your being. Every affirmation from I am does not seek to achieve, it seeks to express. It does not seek to change. It seeks to reveal. That's why before speaking, stop. Listen to your consciousness and ask yourself, am I using the name of God in vain? Am I declaring from error or from truth? Am I asking for what has already been given to me, or am I thanking because I already am? Using I am without consciousness is like handing the helm of your ship to chance. Every word will be a direction, and if you do not guard that word, your life will become disoriented. But using I am with consciousness is to embody the principle. It is to allow the word to take flesh in you. It is to make your mouth an altar and your thoughts a channel for the word. Manifestation does not begin with desire. It begins with identity. You do not manifest what you want. You manifest what you are. And what you are is revealed by what you declare with I am. You can say, I want to be free, but if your soul continues to say, I am limited, you will continue to live in the prison of erroneous thought. You can say, I want to heal, but if deep down you keep repeating, I am fragile, you will continue to feed imbalance. Change is not achieved through effort. It occurs when I am is restored to truth. And the truth is this, I am the living expression of the one God. I do not have to obtain peace. I am peace. I do not have to attract good. I am the law that manifests it. I do not have to be loved. I am the love that extends from this consciousness. Creation flows unobstructed. Prayer becomes thanksgiving. The word becomes decree. Life becomes an ordered manifestation of the eternal. But you must exercise your mind. You must guard your mouth. You must make I am a sacrament, not a habit. Because when you speak those two words, you are invoking God in you. And what you say afterward will join with the word and live in your world. Do it with honor. Do it with power. Do it with reverence and joy. And you will see that everything that once seemed distant, everything that seemed impossible, everything that seemed lost, will return to you as though it had never left. Because in I am, everything is present, everything is possible, everything is God being you. Chapter 3. Do not ask God, express it. For centuries, the human soul has been instructed in the art of asking as if begging, asking as if pleading, asking as if recognizing its own indigence before a distant and feared throne. And while this habit has provided comfort to many sincere hearts, it has not brought liberation, because supplication comes from a consciousness of lack, and what comes from lack inevitably sustains lack. But today I want to talk to you about a radical change, an internal revolution, a shift that transforms not only the way you pray, but the way you live. And it is this: do not ask God, express Him. God is not an intermittent source that gives when He is in a good mood, nor a royal figure who evaluates your pleas as if evaluating merits. God is the principle of good, a principle that does not decide, does not move, but acts as soon as it is recognized. The fire does not warm because you ask for it. It warms because it is ignited. The law of gravity does not function because you beg for it. It works because it is law. And God, the absolute good, does not respond to your clamor. He responds to your consciousness. That's why if you approach the Father as a beggar, even though He is always giving, you will not be able to receive because your vessel is covered by the idea that something is still lacking. And as long as you believe that something is lacking, you will not be able to see that everything has already been given. Jesus did not teach to pray as someone who begs. He taught to pray as one who affirms. When He multiplied the loaves, He did not say, Father, please have mercy on this multitude. He said, I thank you because you always hear me. And by saying thank you, He was already expressing the certainty that everything was accomplished. This is the key to scientific prayer. What is scientific prayer? It is not magic, not empty repetition, not mental control. It is the total alignment of your thought, your feeling, and your word with spiritual truth. It is the act in which you affirm what God has already decreed and make it a reality in your world through your faith. When you say with authority, I am perfect health manifested here and now, you are not trying to convince God or change the course of events. You are establishing a vibrational line that allows life to flow through you without interference. When you affirm, I am divine provision in perfect expression, you are not asking for money. You are remembering that abundance already is, and you are clearing your mind so that truth can find a way. The highest act is not asking, it is recognizing. When you recognize that God already is, that God lives in you, and that nothing exists outside of God, then everything that seemed to be missing begins to flow effortlessly because you are not attracting, you are allowing. Prayer is no longer a plea, it is a declaration. It is a rest, a tuning into eternal good. But you may say, isn't it valid to ask when I am in need? And I tell you, yes, ask, but not as someone begging. Ask as one who affirms what has already been given. Do not say, Lord, heal me, but rather, thank you, Father, because your health is in me and I now allow it. Do not say, give me strength, but rather, I am divine strength in perfect operation. Do not say, open the doors for me, but rather, the way of good is already before me and I walk in it. The difference may seem subtle, but it is total, because in one case, you believe you are far. In the other, you know you are already united. In one, you see God as an external agent. In the other, you see God as a living presence within you. And that difference changes everything. Scientific prayer does not work by effort, it works by certainty. And that certainty is cultivated by repeating the truth until it becomes more real than what your eyes see. The world shouts, this is real. The truth whispers, what is real is the eternal, and you can declare it now. Make your prayer an invisible work of art, a sacred discipline, a space where you no longer beg, but manifest. Begin the day declaring, I am the expression of God in this place today. I do not have to achieve anything. I only have to remember what I already am and live from there. And if something seems to go wrong, if the world tries to pull you out of center, return to declaring, this has no power. Only good has power, and that good lives in me as I am. God does not take pleasure in your suffering. He does not want you to plead. He does not examine you by your words, but by your consciousness. And when your consciousness vibrates in truth, life itself responds to you because you are no longer asking, you are allowing, you are expressing, you are being. This is the great leap from religion to truth, from form to essence, from supplication to manifestation. And this leap begins when your prayer changes its tone, when you stop saying, God help me, and begin saying, I am God in expression. Not from ego, not from arrogance, but from unity, from the Christ within you, waiting to be spoken with power. Do it today, do not delay. Make every word a channel, make every declaration a light. And when you finish praying, do not look to the heavens waiting for signs. Look within and act as one who has already received because you have. And thus the I am in you becomes action, and action becomes manifestation, and manifestation becomes a living testimony that the kingdom is not asked for, it is expressed. Chapter 4. Presence is not attracted, it is awakened. The most subtle and yet most common mistake of the soul in the process of awakening is believing that God is far away, far in the sky, far in time, far in some higher plane that is reached through merit, sacrifice, or hidden techniques. But this belief, so deeply rooted in prayers and the dogmas of centuries, is the main barrier to the flourishing of divine consciousness. Because what you believe to be far, you cannot embody. And what you do not embody remains a hope without form, a truth without power. The truth, the only truth, is this: God does not come. He is. He is not attracted. He is awakened. He is not conquered. He is allowed. Every search that begins with the idea that you are separated from the presence is already a misguided journey, even though it may be full of good intentions. You cannot attract what already is. You cannot ask for what has never left. You cannot invoke a presence that is the very foundation of your existence. What you must do is not steal or try to create a spiritual environment. What you must do is make yourself available. God does not need to be convinced of anything. It is you who must stop opposing him. Resistance is not always active rebellion. Often it manifests in subtle habits: the habit of worrying, the habit of doubting, the habit of projecting the future, the habit of judging. Each one of these mental acts prevents the presence from revealing itself in you, not because God withdraws, but because you have become inaccessible to his frequency. Think of the sun. You do not have to attract its light. You only have to remove the curtain. God is like that sun, always present. But if you insist on looking down, if you insist on closing your eyes, if you insist on covering yourself with doubts, you will not experience its warmth even though it surrounds you. And how is the presence awakened? How do you make yourself available? With attention, with reverence, with inner silence, with gratitude, without motive, with the simple act of remembering that everything has already been given. You do not need to make great efforts. You only need to step out of the persona that says, I cannot, and allow the I am to emerge. Many believe they need to earn God's favor, but there is nothing to earn. Everything was already given the moment you were conceived by Him. You are not a project under construction. You are a perfect idea in the process of expression. And this expression is not achieved through struggle, but through availability. True spiritual work is not about manufacturing more power. It is about removing the internal obstacles that prevent the power from flowing. Do this each morning. Stop for a moment, breathe calmly, and say, I do not need to seek God. I do not need to attract His presence. I am in God, and God is in me. Everything is here. Everything is now. Everything is done. And stay there. You do not need to feel something. You do not need to see lights or hear voices. It is enough to know, and that knowing is the beginning of awakening. Awakening is not a mystical event with heavenly flames. It is a constant decision to dwell in truth. It doesn't matter if you get distracted. It doesn't matter if you fall. Just return. Return to remembering, God is not coming to me. God is already in me. What changes is me. And today I choose to open myself. The presence does not need ideal conditions to manifest. It does not expect you to be free from problems. It does not expect you to be impeccable. It only expects your availability. Are you willing to let go of judgment? Are you willing to release the story you repeat about yourself? Are you willing to live as if the good is already here? Because if you are, then the presence will flow, not because it has arrived, but because you finally let it in. There are those who pray their entire lives and yet never feel God, and it is not because God does not listen, but because they themselves were not available. They kept trying to achieve it through human effort instead of surrendering to being. And being is not reached. It is embodied, it is allowed, it is breathed. Make your day a practice of awakening, not with rigidity, not with artificial mysticism, but with surrender. Do what you do, but do it from the consciousness of unity. When you speak, God is speaking through me. When you walk, God is walking in this body. When you work, the divine mind is acting through me. When you look at the world, this is also God expressing itself, even if I do not yet know it. And you will see that the presence becomes palpable, not by miracle, but by naturalness. Do not attract, do not search, do not wait. Just awaken, for you are already where you need to be. You are already what you were created to be. You already have everything that eternal love has prepared for you, and this does not need to be fabricated. It only needs to be accepted. And you are ready to accept, you are ready to allow. You are ready to declare with all your being, I am the presence that reveals itself. No more searching, no more distance. Everything is here. Everything is I am in God. Chapter 5. Everything is consciousness. You are what you hold. Nothing you experience is external to you. Nothing you live is a coincidence. And though it may hurt to realize it at first, nothing happens to you. Everything is expressed from within you. We live in a spiritual universe governed not by chance, nor by the whimsical forces of the material world, but by a single law that organizes and reflects everything, the law of consciousness. Your life is not what happens. It is what you are holding as true within you. Every person you meet, every circumstance you repeat, every success or setback, none of these are random. They are exact reflections of the vibrational content of your consciousness. This is not judgment, this is not blame, this is law. The human soul, while still asleep, believes it is a victim of the world. It believes that things happen to it, that there is good or bad luck, that there are enemies outside, and that it must defend itself from life. But the soul that begins to awaken, as you are now, pauses for a moment and listens to the inner voice that says, you are not an effect, you are cause. You are not a body drifting in a sea of external forces. You are consciousness projecting itself, and what you project, you see. Your entire experience is made of yourself, not of your body, not even of your words or actions, but of the level of consciousness you sustain. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. And what you are in the world of forms is defined by what you accept as real, what you hold as true, and what you repeat as unchangeable. An undisciplined mind is like a projector running wild. It plays old movies, repeats painful scenes, holds on to characters that should have left the stage long ago, but are still acting because you keep feeding them. This is why the goal is not to change the world. It is to change your consciousness. It is not to change your relationships. It is to elevate your idea of yourself. It is not to chase more money. It is to dissolve the consciousness of lack. It is not to heal the body as an object. It is to remember that health already is and needs only a mind that does not contradict it. When you affirm, I am complete, I am free, and I am guided by the divine mind, you are not trying to achieve something, you are changing the content of your consciousness. And when the content changes, so does the reflection, not because the world has changed, but because your projection has been replaced. This requires vigilance. This requires sincerity. This requires a commitment to your own center. Each day, many times a day, ask yourself without fear, what am I holding as true? Am I thinking from truth or from habit, from certainty or from a repeated story? And if you see that you have drifted, do not punish yourself, just return. I am not what I see, I am what I hold. And today I choose to hold the truth. Consciousness does not change with a phrase. It changes with practice, with scientific prayer, with constant affirmation, with fierce silence, and above all, with the decision to no longer be a victim. As long as you believe yourself to be an effect, the world will seem a threat. But when you remember you are cause in action, the world becomes a stage for manifesting good. This does not mean you wanted everything you have lived, but it does mean that in some way you have sustained it. You have accepted it as possible. You have believed it as part of the system. And what is believed lives, and what is sustained repeats, and what is declared manifests. And this is why, child of the Most High, you do not need to control the world. You only need to guard your consciousness. Do this every day. Before you speak, before you react, before you decide, close your eyes and say, this action I am about to take, does it respond to the consciousness of I am, or to the idea of the limited self? And let the answer guide you. Truth always speaks in silence. Do not wait for outer miracles. Be the inner miracle. When you change what you hold, the world changes what it presents to you, not because something outside surrendered, but because you raised the standard of your being. Remember, the universe is not written, it is being projected, and the screen upon which you see it is your mind. If you clean the lens, you will see Christ in everything. If you correct the projector, the image will be clear. And if you remember who you are, not who you were, not what you were told, but what God knows you to be, then you will live as one who no longer needs to struggle, because good projects itself effortlessly from the consciousness that sustains it. Make your consciousness your altar. Make your thoughts your offering. Make I am your only reality. And you will see that without effort, everything will begin to reflect the truth, because everything is consciousness, and you are what you hold. Chapter 6. Thought as the molding of the Word. All visible creation has an invisible origin. Every form was first born as an idea, and everything the soul experiences, whether for good or for pain, with joy or with sorrow, is nothing more than the result, the consequence, the reflection of the thought it sustains. Just as a mold shapes molten metal, thought shapes the Word. And the Word, the I am that declares, that decrees, that calls things into being, needs an aligned thought to manifest in order. It is not enough to desire. You must think from being. Desire without consciousness is merely anxiety, hunger that does not understand its own origin. But thought born from I am is organized creative force. God did not create the universe by wishing for something to happen. God thought, and in thinking the Word manifested. That Word took form, and that form was called creation. And that creation was you. You are not an accident. You are not the result of biological necessity. You are the idea conceived by the divine mind. And that idea has become living expression. Just as you were created, so too do you create. When you think from being, your thought becomes a sacred mold, and the Word, which is always waiting for direction, pours into that mold and produces form, precise form, corresponding form, and inevitable form. But if your thought is scattered, if your mind lives between fear and doubt, if your ideas sway between the eternal and the temporal, the Word cannot find a pure mold, and creation appears distorted, not because God failed, but because the mold was poorly designed. An undisciplined mind is like a house without foundations. It wavers in the wind, it sinks in the storm, and it surrenders to the noise. That is why the mind must be trained, not as a tool of control, but as a channel for spirit. A mind without order is fertile soil for error, but a mind illuminated by truth is the perfect instrument of the I am. And how is the mind disciplined? With consciousness, and with orderly repetition, with spiritual vigilance, and above all, with love. The mind is not subdued by force, and It is aligned by presence, by faithful practice, by silent surrender. Every time you think with intention, every time you choose an idea of truth instead of an idea of fear, you are polishing the mold, refining the instrument, preparing your consciousness to create in a straight line. I have taught many times, thought is the cause of all. And I do not mean superficial thought or fleeting desire or emotional impulse. I mean sustained thought, aligned, affirmed, organized in truth. Such thought does not drift. It does not plead and it does not waver. It declares, it acts. And when this happens, the word flowing from I am finds its mold, and manifestation occurs not by effort but by correspondence. You cannot live saying, I am abundance, while thinking this is hard, this is scarce, this is not for me. In that case, your mind is sabotaging your word. And it does not matter how many affirmations you repeat. If the mold is broken, the form will be broken too. That is why before you speak, you must order your thinking. Before you decree, you must clarify your consciousness. And when both thought and word are aligned in the I am, then manifestation will be exact. Not by magic, but by law. Practice this sincerely during the day. Observe your thoughts. Mentally note what you repeat in silence. Listen to your inner monologues and ask yourself, does this thought uphold the I am or contradict it? And if you discover that you have strayed, do not judge yourself. Just return. Simply declare, I do not accept this image. The thought I sustain is truth, and the truth manifests in me now. Thought must be born from being, not from the desire to change the world, but from the pure longing to express what God has already given you. You do not need to strive to manifest. You only need to think as one who has already been blessed, as one who was already created complete, as one who knows that there is no need to ask, only to allow. And to allow is to think without contradiction, to think from certainty, to think as one who already lives in the kingdom, even while walking on the earth. That thought, clear, clean, aligned, is what causes the word to act with power. For the word does not need help, only direction. And that direction is your thought. So today, make your thinking your prayer without words. Make your mind the temple of the I am, and declare firmly, without fear, without deviation, I think from humility, I think from peace, and I think from eternal good. And my thought becomes form, for it is the mold of the word that lives in me, and thus the world will arrange itself around you as a loving response to the elevated thought you sustain, because what you think in God becomes reality. Chapter 7. Feeling as the force of incarnation. There are those who believe that merely thinking is enough to create, that mental clarity alone can transform the world, that repetition of affirmations is everything. But anyone who has tried to live through mental affirmation without true feeling has quickly encountered an invisible wall between what is declared and what is manifested. That wall is called the absence of emotional embodiment, because while thought is the architect, feeling is the one who lays the stone. If thought designs, feeling builds. If thought directs, feeling gives life. Every thought without feeling is a seed without water. Every decree without living emotion is a word without breath. Yes, God thought the universe into existence, but God sustained it through love. Love was the breath that gave life to form, and in the same way, whatever you wish to manifest, be it health, peace, provision, or clarity, will not descend into the world through cold intellect, but through sincere, deep, harmonious feeling. Here, however, a crucial distinction must be made. I'm not speaking of human emotion. I'm speaking of spiritual feeling. Human emotion is reaction and it is impulse. It is the ebb and flow of the ego. It cries, it rages, it despairs, it gets excited. It is useful for drama, but useless for true manifestation. Spiritual feeling, on the other hand, does not come from what happens outside, but from what you recognize within. It is silent certainty. It is serene joy. It is love without an object. It is peace that does not depend on circumstances. When you decree from the I am, and you feel what you say as living truth, your whole soul acknowledges it as fact. And from that instant, the world begins to align to reflect it. If you say, I am perfect health, but you say it with fear, with doubt, with effort, then that thought has not been embodied. It floats in the mind, but has not descended into the heart. But if you say it from an inner peace that needs no explanation, from a gratitude that demands no proof, from a joy that is independent of results, then feeling completes creation, and what was once only word becomes flesh. The secret of manifestation, then, is not in repetition, but in feeling from being. And for this you must learn to distinguish between the desires of the small self and the vibration of the I am. When the small self desires something, it becomes desperate, wants quick results, clings to time, depends on signs, searches for evidence. But the I Am needs nothing. It simply desires to express itself. And when it affirms, it does so with the serenity of one who is already complete. How do you feel from the I Am? First, you must release human expectation. Stop seeking signs. Stop demanding proof. Stop thinking you need to feel something special. Then enter into silence. Make yourself available and repeat, not from the lips, but from the center. I am the love of God in expression. I am the peace that nothing can alter. I am eternal life in full manifestation. And stay there. Do not seek an effect. Simply feel it as true, not as something that is going to happen, but as something already real. That feeling is not effusive, and it is not exalted, and it is not explosive. It is clean, and it is gentle, and it is absolute. And if it establishes itself in you, even if you see no immediate results, you have already sown the seed. And the harvest is inevitable. Practice focused training each day. Do not repeat 1,000 affirmations. Just take one and make it flesh. Declare an I am and complete the phrase from truth. Then close your eyes and feel that you already are. Without asking, without waiting, without calculating. Just vibrate in certainty. That vibration is the signature of God within you. The mind can deceive you. The mouth can imitate. But feeling never lies. If your prayer has no soul, the word will not descend. But if your prayer is full of pure feeling, the word will incarnate, and the world will respond. Therefore, beloved child of the Most High, do not attempt to create with the mind alone. Use thought as direction, but use feeling as energy. And when both are united, when mind and soul speak in unison, when what you think and what you feel vibrate on the same frequency, then the invisible will become visible, the eternal will take form, and you will be the living witness of the incarnated truth. Because thought guides, but it is feeling that gives it life. Chapter 8. Speech as an instrument of manifestation. Speech is not an accessory of thought. It is not merely a vehicle for social expression. It is power. It is creation. It is law. The visible universe emerged through the word, and the word, when spoken with the awareness of unity, does not describe reality. It establishes it. Let there be light, and there was light. Be cleansed, and the leprosy disappeared. Rise and walk, and the paralytic walked. There was no explanation, no ceremony, no promise. There was living word. And the word, because it was aligned with being, did not err. Every time you speak, you are sowing into the invisible field of spirit. And that field, as infallible as every divine law, produces whatever is planted with persistence and feeling. That is why every word is a decree, every affirmation a seed, and every conversation a creation. The soul that still sleeps believes it can speak without consequence, believes it was just joking, and believes it's not that serious. But the awakened soul guards its language, as one who protects a sacred temple, and because it knows the mouth is not merely flesh, it is the channel of the eternal word. And the word, and the I am, cannot be used lightly, not because it punishes, but because it creates, and what it creates manifests. Do you want to know the quality of your consciousness? And listen to how you speak. Listen to what you declare every day, and listen to what you say about yourself, about life, and about others. If you often say that this is hard, you are decreeing struggle, and if you repeat, I can't, I don't have, it's difficult for me, you are planting limitation. If you say, this always happens to me, you are giving an order to the universe to repeat the same story, and it does, not out of punishment, but out of obedience by law. The law does not distinguish between a joke and an affirmation. It only distinguishes between what you sustain with emotion and repetition, and what you neglect, and what you sustain takes form. Thus, learn to speak from the word that does not err. That word is the I am. And when you pronounce it, you must do so with reverence, with awareness, with certainty. Do not say, I am stupid, I'm clumsy, I am slow, and I am poor, even in a playful tone, because whatever you place after those two words attaches to the soul as shadow or as light. And if it attaches, it will live. But if you use your speech as an instrument of truth, if every word you utter is born from a unified soul, then your mouth becomes a channel of perfect creation. Do not speak to fill the silence. Speak to ignite life. Do not speak to please, and speak to establish. Do not speak just to speak. Speak for the I am. This does not mean falling into forced mysticism. It is not about policing every syllable, as if tiptoeing through life. It is about living with intention, with purpose, with clarity of origin. Your speech must be born from your center, and your center is Christ. And Christ does not say what should not be. Christ does not contradict itself. Christ does not decree error. Practice this sacred training for an entire day. Listen to yourself, and every time you say something, ask, does this affirm the truth or contradict it? If it contradicts, correct it, and not with guilt, but with power. Cancel that word, replace that decree. Declare again from the I am, and say what must be said. I am clarity. I am perfect guidance. I am joy incarnate. I am the expression of eternal good. Do this daily until your mouth becomes a faithful reflection of your heart, and your heart becomes an altar where only truth dwells. Your speech is your brush. Your world is the canvas, and your consciousness is the palette. And the word you pronounce is the stroke that defines the form. Do not improvise creation, declare it with intention, and you will see that your world will no longer be an accident, but a work of spiritual art. Because what you speak lives, and if it lives, it will find you. Speak then as one who knows that every word they utter goes before them and becomes reality, because so it is and so it shall be. Chapter 9 on Silence, the womb of all creation. We live in an age of noise. Outer noise, yes, cars, voices, clocks, radios, markets. But above all, inner noise, an endless current of loose thoughts, repeated ideas, worries spinning like mill wheels, mental phrases without form or power, phrases that drain without creating, that wear out without building. In the midst of that noise, the soul, made for peace, becomes weary, hardens, scatters, and forgets what it truly is. And so many decree, many affirm, and many pray. But they do so from a saturated mind, from an occupied heart, and they do not understand why their words fail to manifest. It is not that they lack faith, it is that they lack space, the sacred space where the word descends, the inner place where the word becomes flesh. Silence. Not everything is decreed with words. Not everything is manifested through speaking. There is a form of creation older than any human word, creation through silence. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is the absolute presence of God. It is the state in which the soul stops speaking to God in order to listen to Him. It is the moment when the human I becomes still, and the I am takes the throne. Every deep creation begins there, not with a shout, not with a command, not with a phrase, but with a descent into the center. Silence is the womb of form, where there is not yet form, but there is direction, where there are no words, but there is perfect intention, where there is no noise, but there is a vibration that sustains all things. When the soul falls silent, God speaks, not with sentences, and not with voices, and not with sounds, but with certainty, with clarity, with an inner light that needs no explanation. And when that voice, which comes not from the world, is allowed to be heard, even without words, everything aligns, because silence is not passive waiting, and it is pure vibratory activity. It is the matrix of the real. It is the field where the seed of creation germinates without interference. Many speak too much, even in their spiritual practices. They jump from affirmation to affirmation, from petition to petition, from idea to idea, and they forget. Goodness does not always need to be called. Sometimes it only needs to be allowed. And the supreme permission is given when you stop interrupting spirit. With your attempts to control it, silence is that surrender, that openness, that door through which the kingdom enters. Not because you summoned it, but because you stopped blocking it. Make silence a living practice, not as one who sits waiting for miracles, but as one who knows that truth does not need to be spoken to operate. Sit comfortably, close your eyes and breathe, and stop trying. Do not repeat phrases, do not tell God anything, just show up. And say without voice, without form, without urgency, here I am, only I am. Without words, without stories, without past, only availability and peaceful waiting. Feel yourself being held by a force that needs no name and by a presence that does not announce itself, by a love that needs no explanation. That is the kingdom, not the one awaited with eyes turned upward, but the one revealed in the silence within. The world fears silence, because silence reveals, and in revelation many illusions fall away. But you who have come this far, you are ready to stop speaking to God and allow God to speak in you, because that is silence, God pronouncing Himself not with words, but with absolute power. From now on, practice this every day. After your affirmative prayer and after your decrees from the I am, pause. Make space. Do not keep filling the air with phrases. Let what was said descend. Allow the word already planted to be cared for by silence. Just as a farmer does not dig up a seed after planting it, you must not interfere with an anxious mind either. Silence is the inner sun, the invisible water, the fertile space, and in that space the word takes root, and what you could not yet see begins to grow. The mature soul knows how to be silent, and in that silence it hears, and in that hearing it receives, And in that receiving it manifests, because every form is born from silence. Every decree needs space to descend. Every miracle needs the vibrant womb of not speaking. And when you manage to fall silent with faith, when you stop speaking with need, when you dwell in the I am without proclaiming it, then God creates, because God had already been waiting for that moment to do so. Chapter 10. Your world is your consciousness made form. Nothing outside of you holds any power. This is an absolute statement. It has no nuances. It admits no exceptions. And although at first it may seem challenging, almost offensive, to a mind accustomed to believing in external causes, when it is truly understood, it liberates the soul from every prison. The world you see, the world you touch, the world you inhabit, is not a collection of objective facts happening apart from you. It is not a stage where you simply act as a character, submitting to a pre-written script. No. The world is your consciousness made form. What you see is what you have believed. What you experience is what you have accepted, as possible, as just, as normal. And what you do not see is what your consciousness has not yet permitted to manifest. The untrained mind reacts to events, believing they come from out there. It believes what happens comes from others, from chance, from karma, from punishment, from historical cycles. But all these interpretations are born from separation. Fragmented consciousness always seeks external causes, because it has forgotten its inner unity. But if you are reading this, you are no longer in the stage of forgetfulness. You are standing at the threshold of recognition. You are beginning to see that nothing comes to you, without your own consciousness permitting it, sustaining it, or reflecting it. Illness is not imposed upon you. It reflects an inner idea, often unconscious, of conflict, separation, or unworthiness. Lack does not attack you. It manifests an inner structure that believes there is not enough, that there is struggle, and that you must fight to survive. Chaos does not engulf you. It shows you that within you are battling judgments, disordered thoughts, loose emotions. But none of this is punishment. It is reflection, and it is a mirror. It is an opportunity. And the wise soul does not flee from the mirror. It thanks it, and it contemplates it. It transforms it, not by changing the reflection, but by changing the face. You do not need to fight against the world. You need to purify your consciousness. Not to become perfect, but to be again, to remember that you did not come here to adapt to disorder, but to manifest the eternal order of the I Am. How do you observe the world as a mirror of the I Am? Not through judgment, not through guilt, not through punishment, but through pure recognition. What I see outside shows me what is vibrating inside. And if it does not resemble the truth, I do not reject it, I replace it. If you see lack, say, this is showing me a consciousness of limitation. I do not fight it. I illuminate it with the truth. I am plenitude. If you see confusion, say, this is a reflection of unaligned thoughts. I don't need to understand them all. I just need to return to the source. I am clarity. And if you see the repetition of patterns, difficult relationships, unresolved situations, do not resign yourself and do not say that's life. Say, this mirror still shows the old consciousness, but I no longer sustain it. I am new creation. Your consciousness is the origin, the world is the result, and you are the silent creator of both. That is why the real work is never out there. It is always in the inner field, where thought becomes form, where feeling becomes vibration, where the word becomes the world. This is not denial of reality. It is redemption of the concept of reality. Because reality is not what the physical eyes see. Reality is of the being, and you have the spiritual power and duty to bring that reality into form. Practice this each day. Look at your life with new eyes, without drama, without victimhood, without justification, only with sincerity, and say, this world is my consciousness made form. What I do not like does not condemn me. It reveals me. And what is revealed can be transformed. And immediately after, make your inner correction. Declare from the I Am, hold the new state without anxiety, as one who already is what they are waiting to see reflected. Does this seem difficult? Remember, you are not alone. You are not at the mercy of the forms you once created. You are united with the source, and that source can redesign your entire world. The instant you redesign your consciousness, it is not about controlling the outer world. It is about assuming your true origin, because when you know that everything around you was born from your own mind, your own heart, your own word, your own level of being, then you no longer fear change. You celebrate it, because you know that changing within changes everything. Your world is your consciousness made form. Do not fight the reflection. Hold the face of Christ, and you will see the mirror return you to the self. For as you think of God, so will life appear. And when you hold the truth will hold you. Chapter 11, Desire Transformed into Divine Direction. Much has been said about desire on spiritual paths. It has been accused of being the root of all suffering, the chain that binds the soul to illusion, the impulse that diverts man from his true path. And if we speak of desire from the consciousness of the separated self, this is true. Desire can be anxiety. It can be disguised lack. It can be an echo of the world screaming, "You do not yet have what you need." But not all desire is error. Not all desire is illusion. Not every inner impulse must be denied. There is a kind of desire that does not come from the ego, but from the spirit. A desire that is not born of fear, but of the I am. And that desire does not enslave, it guides. It does not chain you to the world, it orients you toward your divine expression. The soul was made to expand, and when desire is pure, it does not seek to possess, but to manifest more of what it already is. This desire is not experienced as lack, but as a calling. It does not shout, "I want what I don't have." It whispers, "I'm ready to show more of God through me." This desire is not attached to outcomes, because it no longer moves from anguish. It moves from certainty, from recognition, from purpose. That is why the true spiritual work is not to deny desire, but to purify it, to examine its root, to remove the fear, to remove the attachment, and to remove the urgency, and in doing so, to discover its sacred core. Every desire that is born from the I am is a command from heaven, asking to express itself through you. You desire healing, because within you is the perfect image of the Christ, waiting for you to embody it. You desire abundance, not to hoard, but because you know, even without words, that you were created to express the kingdom. You desire to love and be loved, because the love that you are is only complete when it flows. The problem is not in desiring. The problem is in desiring from error, from lack, from fear, from comparison. But when desire is surrendered to the I am, it is transfigured. It becomes direction, compass, impulse, not agitation. Do not fear your desires, and instead ask them where they come from. This desire that I feel, does it make me feel more of the I am, or more of the small, anxious, needy self? Is this desire born of an imposed image, or is it a seed of the spirit in my soul, asking to be born into form? Ask this every time you desire something, and if you discover that the desire is born of the ego, do not repress it. Correct it, realign it, reformulate it in God. For example, do not say, "I want money because I don't have enough." Say, "I am the divine provision in expansion." Do not say, "I want someone to love me because I feel alone." Say, "I am the love of God in perfect circulation." Do not say, "I want to heal so that I don't suffer anymore." Say, "I am eternal life in full manifestation." And then release. Do not control the how, do not cling to the when, do not demand the form. Simply hold the vibration of the purified desire and allow the universe to do its part. Remember, the I am does not desire out of need. It desires out of expansion. It desires because creation is ongoing. It desires because God rejoices in manifesting himself more fully in you and with you and through you. Make your desire a prayer without pleading, a prayer without anxiety. Declare, "That which my soul desires is already on its way, because I do not desire to possess. I desire to express the good that I already am," and then act from there. From confidence, from peace, from the abundance of being, not from the scarcity of the small self. When desire is thus purified, it becomes divine direction. You no longer beg, you orient. You no longer insist, you allow. You no longer crave what you do not have. You align with what already is, and that is true creation, because in the I am, desire does not wound, it awakens. It does not enslave, it liberates. It does not draw you away from the center. It leads you deeper into it. And from that center, everything that is yours by divine right begins to manifest, not as a reward, but as the natural expression of the love that you already are. Chapter 12. Action without anxiety, manifesting without forcing. There is a very common false belief, even among sincere seekers, that says the more action you take, the closer you are to your goal. This is an idea inherited from the agitated world, a world that worships effort, idolizes hurry, and measures worth by how much you have exhausted yourself. But that is not spirituality. That is not divine creation. That is not the way of the I am. True power does not push. It proceeds with certainty. It does not move out of desperation. It moves by divine direction. It does not act to achieve something. It acts because it has already received. The aligned soul does not live running. It does not rush from place to place, accumulating tasks, chasing results, and comparing timelines. The aligned soul listens, feels, and acts at the right moment, without anxiety, without hurry, without pressure. That clean and firm action is what produces true manifestation, not by volume, not by intensity, but because it comes from presence. Presence is never rushed. God is never anxious. Spirit has no need to hurry. Everything that is eternal moves with the rhythm of truth. And if you are an expression of that same spirit, why live as if time rules you? Why act as if you are late on your own path? You are not late. You are exactly where you need to be. And your action does not need to correct God. It only needs to express Him. Acting from the I am is very different from acting from the small self. The small self acts from need. The I am acts from fullness. The small self acts to reach something. The I am acts to manifest something. The small self wants to control effects. The I am trusts the spiritual law and focuses solely on sustaining the cause. And what is the cause? Consciousness, vibration. The idea held in peace. Action that arises from that place does not tire, does not distract, does not consume. It reveals, it multiplies, and it blesses. When you move from presence, you do not need to convince anyone. You do not need to repeat what you have already affirmed. You do not need to adjust invisible threads. You simply do what is yours to do, without fear, without haste, without expectations. And that action, no matter how small it may seem, carries the strength of the eternal. Practice this each day. Before making any decision, ask yourself from within the silence, is this arising from the I am or from fear of time? Is this direction or is this anxiety? Am I pushing or am I being guided? And if the answer is clear, but proceed, and if it is not clear, wait. Not with resignation, but with trust, with joy in resting in God. Because those who wait upon the Lord do not waste time, they are strengthened. The right action is the one that does not seek results, but expresses the consciousness that already knows. When you declare, I am perfect provision, the action that follows that affirmation does not need to force open doors. It simply walks toward those already open, or waits peacefully for them to open. Because the soul that knows does not force. Look at the seasons. Have you ever seen spring struggle to bloom, and have you ever heard the sun shout to be seen? The universe acts with order, with rhythm, with fidelity to being, and so can you. Because you are part of that same order, you are an expression of that same principle. And when you act from that understanding, everything simplifies. You do less, but you achieve more, not because you are passive, but because each gesture is impregnated with pure intention. This is not inaction. This is not passivity disguised as faith. This is the highest form of action. Action born from the I am, not from the self that fears. Today, pause for a moment and declare, I do not have to rush. Goodness is already on its way because it is already within me. My action is not struggle. My action is expression, and what I express from truth, it cannot fail. And then, do what is yours to do. Do it with clarity and do it with joy. Do it as one who has already received. Because manifestation does not require you to manufacture it. It only requires you to allow it. And the highest way to allow it is to act in peace and to act in the name of the One, to act as one who already is. And when you do this, everything falls into place. Not because you forced it, but because you remembered it. And that remembrance is the key that opens every door. Chapter 13. Grace as the natural movement of goodness. There is a current that sustains life. You cannot see it, you cannot touch it. But if you allow it, it carries you, it supports you, it lifts you. That current is called grace. It is not something you earn. It is not something you negotiate. It is not a reward for good behavior. It is not the result of following rituals or moral codes. Grace is the natural movement of goodness. It is the flow of divine love without obstacles. It is the spontaneous manifestation of spiritual order. When you stop resisting, grace moves. As long as you struggle, grace waits. As long as you fear, grace observes. As long as you insist on controlling, grace holds back. Because grace does not impose itself. It offers itself. And it only enters where it finds space. Inner space, space free of judgment, space free of stories, and space where the true self can operate without the ego's interruptions. The ego fears grace because it cannot predict it, it cannot plan it, it cannot control it. The ego says, show me the plan. Grace says, trust in goodness. The ego says that explain the process. Grace says, simply allow. And that is why many never know grace, because they are too busy designing their lives instead of receiving them as a gift. Do not confuse grace with inaction. Grace acts, grace builds, grace transforms. but it does so without effort, without friction, without inner violence. When you allow grace to operate, life flows with a gentleness that amazes. Things fall into place without you having to force them. Answers arrive before you even ask. Doors open without being pushed. Not because you did everything right, but because you released the idea that you must do everything alone. God does not need to be convinced to help you. God is already moving on your behalf, but He waits for your inner surrender to move without resistance. That surrender is not defeat. It is not passivity. It is not resignation. It is wisdom. It is saying with your whole soul, I do not know better than God, and I surrender to goodness, and I allow myself to be guided by divine intelligence. I let myself be carried by the current of love. When you stop resisting, when you stop controlling every aspect of your life, when you stop fighting with time, with others, with yourself, grace begins to act. And its action is clean, and it is precise, and it is unexpected in its form, but perfect in its outcome. Because grace does not follow the ego's rotes. It does not respond to human maps. It responds to truth, and truth does not need explanation, only space. Grace does not require you to be better, and it requires you to be real. To say with humility, enough struggling, I am ready to live in heaven's rhythm. And that rhythm is not slow, nor is it rushed. It is exact, harmonious, sacred. Make grace your path, and make it your companion, and make it your new law. Before you act, ask yourself, am I pushing from the ego, or am I allowing from the Spirit? And if you find you are forcing, stop, breathe, align your heart with goodness and declare, I allow grace to guide me. I trust the rhythm of God. Everything I need is already on its way, not by my strength, but by the law of goodness in action. Grace is living trust. It is certainty without explanation. It is surrender without weakness, and it is presence that needs no proof. It is God flowing as you. When you stop opposing, let grace speak before your fear, and let grace walk before your hurry. Let grace think before your ego, and you will see that what once seemed hard becomes easy. What once seemed distant becomes present. What once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. Because goodness does not need to be manufactured. It only needs to be allowed. And when you stop resisting, grace acts. Chapter 14, everything is done. Live as if it already were. There is a kind of faith that asks. There is a kind of faith that waits, and there is a kind of faith that looks for a sign, for relief, for visible manifestation. To then say, well, now I believe. But that faith, though sincere, is immature, and it is not wrong, but it does not create. Because true spiritual creation does not happen when things change. It happens when you change. And that change is not external. It is not a change of place or face or circumstance. It is a change of inner position, the irrevocable decision, to live as if the miracle has already occurred. Everything is done. This is not poetry. This is not comfort. This is law. Creation was already completed in the divine mind. You do not have to invent anything. You only have to align yourself with what already is, to manifest it, as if you already had it, because in spirit you already do. The human mind, so conditioned to time and results, wants to see in order to believe. But the spiritual mind, the Christ mind within you, believes to see. And it does not believe out of hope, and it believes out of recognition. I know it is done, because God does not work halfway, and I know it is fulfilled, because the I Am leaves no work unfinished. And that is why the awakened soul does not wait for signs. It moves with certainty. Do you want to manifest? Then live as if you had already received. Not as a performance, and not as an act, but as the natural extension of your faith. If you are affirming health, walk as one already restored. Give thanks as one already healed. Feel your body as the clean, vibrant temple that it already is. If you are affirming abundance, speak as one who lacks nothing. Breathe as one who lives in heaven's order. Give as one who has already received. If you are declaring freedom, think like a free being. Decide without fear. Act as one no longer bound by yesterday. God does not move by emotion. God moves by law, and the law does not respond to what you are waiting for. It responds to what you affirm with your way of living. Words alone are not enough. Declarations alone are not enough. If your whole life does not confirm what you say you believe, your consciousness is divided and manifestation halts. That is why Jesus said, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. He did not say that ask and wait to see if it happens. He said, believe that you have received. And the verb is in the past, because in spirit everything is already fulfilled. When you live as if it were already done, you are not pretending. You are aligning your consciousness with the truth. And the truth is that you are not creating new things. You are manifesting what is already yours by divine right. But that right is not activated by anxiety. It is activated by certainty. And certainty is demonstrated by living as one who already knows. Do this every day, before you act, before you speak, before you decide. Ask yourself, am I acting as someone who is waiting, or as someone who already has? And if you find you are waiting, correct it, not with force, but with alignment. Say, I am not the one who waits, I am the one who has already received. And from that certainty I move, and from that certainty I rest, from that certainty I give thanks. Manifestation does not happen when the universe decides to bless you. It happens when you behave as one who has already been blessed, because what you experience externally is the reflection of what you sustain internally as true. Some will ask, if I live as if it already were, am I deceiving myself? And I answer, what is a greater deception, to believe in lack, or to believe in the I am, to believe in the symptom, or in the perfect health that already is, to believe in the debt, or in the provision already created in the divine mind? The true deception is to live as if God were not already acting. The true faith is to live as if he has already fulfilled, because he has. Walk as one who already knows, love as one who already has, pray as one who has already received, serve as one who is already whole. And this coherence between what you believe and what you feel, what you say and what you do, is the secret formula of all manifestation. It is not a magic formula, it is spiritual law. According to your faith, it will be done to you. And that faith is not passive. That faith lives, and it breathes, it walks, it declares, and it acts. Everything is done. Do not force, do not doubt. Do not block the current with anxiety. Simply live as if it already were, and you will see the invisible become form, without noise, without struggle, without error. Because the kingdom is not built. It is recognized, and it is embodied, and it is lived. Chapter 15, I am everywhere in the world as an extension of being. There comes a moment in spiritual life when prayer dissolves, not because one no longer prays, but because all of life has become a prayer. There is no longer pleading, because there is no longer separation. There is no longer anxiety about manifestation, because everything that occurs is recognized as an expression of one reality. God in everything, God in me, I am as everything that is. This is the supreme point. It is not mysticism without ground, and it is not a mental escape. It is the highest state of inner awakening. To see the world as an extension of being. You are no longer at war with what you see. You do not need to correct every scene. You do not need to control every outcome, because you have discovered that everything is one, and you are within that one, and not as a spectator, but as conscious manifestation. Your world is no longer a hostile place, nor a space divided between the spiritual and the material, between the sacred and the profane. Now you see with new eyes, and now you feel with a new heart. Now you recognize what has always been, that there is nothing outside of I am. The tree, the wind, the face of the one speaking to you, the coin you exchange, the food you receive, and the body you inhabit. All of it, everything, is expression of one substance. You do not manifest things, you manifest ideas of the one, forms of good, visible fragments of the eternal love that you are, in different tones, in various textures, in countless faces. When you reach this point, life ceases to be a game of desires and becomes a continuous act of recognition. You recognize order, you recognize beauty, you recognize the voice of God speaking to you in everything. Delay is no longer a problem, because you know that the rhythm of the one does not fail. Loss is no longer a tragedy, because you know that nothing can truly be lost, as it is all sustained. Change no longer disturbs you, because you are change within the eternal. You do not need to achieve it, you need to be. You do not need to prove it, you need to express. And what you express when you do it from I am has power, because it is authentic, because it is natural, because it is God being you, without disguise, without effort. Now you understand that there are no two, a you that prays and a world that responds, a you that creates and a matter that obeys. There is only one, and that one is I am unfolding as you, and as everything around you. The flower and your gaze are made of the same light. The elevated thought and the form that reflects it are not two separate events. They are one being revealed in sequence. This state does not eliminate individuality, it sanctifies it, because you understand that your individuality is not isolation, but the focal point of divine consciousness. You do not disappear, you expand. You recognize yourself in all, and by doing so, you no longer say, this is mine. You say that this is part of me, because I am in everything. Now you no longer need to look for signs. The whole universe has become a symbol. Every encounter is a message, and every circumstance is a reflection. Every silence is a word. You no longer work to manifest a house, a job, a relationship. Now you work to express with fidelity the frequency of being, and everything else falls into place, flows. Notice, not because you decreed it as an object, but because you are a channel of order. Do this every day. Before you step into the world, pause for a moment and declare with your soul present. Today I do not come to acquire things. I come to express the One. I come to recognize myself in everything. I come to love what I already am and to let my world be the mirror of the good that I am. Then walk, work, laugh, hug, serve, rest. All of this, when done from this consciousness, becomes an extension of I am. And the world responds because the world is no longer a field of obstacles, but a living fabric that moves with your vibration. When you elevate your being, the world fine-tunes itself. When you inhabit the One, the world manifests it in 1,000 forms. Not because you command, but because you no longer resist. You have arrived, not at the end, but at the true beginning, the point at which you cease to seek God, because you now see Him in everything. And because now you know that you do not manifest things. You manifest expressions of the One, and you are one of them. The most conscious, the most luminous, and the most available.